I'm here with Owen, the Oracle over here from Humble Traders community. If you guys been watching my channel for a while, then you know how I met Owen. He was my mentor, now a friend, and I'm really happy to say that he's here to share the swing trading strategy with you guys today. And also, besides being a friend, he's also the biggest baller trader that I know. So Owen, so nice to finally have you on my YouTube video.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so can you tell our viewers how you trade when it comes to swing trading and what kind of strategies are you going to teach them today?
So typically when I do swing trading strategy, it's usually more of an earnings strategy. So it's basically looking at the estimates and looking at thesis and trying to figure out if that's a negative or impact on the stock earnings.
So let's do a really quick swing trading 101 here for those who are new to swing trading. Owen, can you tell our viewers what swing trading is and why do you like to utilize it to trade the market today?
So swing trading is basically holding a stock for at least 2 weeks up to 3 months. Sometimes it can be as far as 6 months, depending on how the market actually is. Typically, you can do it part-time. You don't need any fancy technology or fancy screens. I pretty much use a smartphone and a computer. That pretty much does it. And for the most part, for strategies, I use a simple strategy, which is just using the earnings, figuring out what the earnings estimates are, which is free online sources.
Yeah.
And then just looking at what's happening around the world, particularly with that company, and then decide if that's a negative or positive impact for that company over the next couple of weeks or months.
Okay, when you're swing trading, do you care more about the fundamentals or the technicals or both? Because I know in day trading at least, you could theoretically only use technical analysis and never have to look at news. What about swing trading?
So in swing trading, you're going to need a mix of fundamentals and technicals.
Okay.
The fundamentals basically give you an idea of which direction you should be taking, and then the technicals is just all about just timing it when it's the right time to execute that trade. So if you're fundamentally bullish on something, then you look for like bullish patterns to enter your bullish, thesis.
That's really cool to know. So basically, essentially, you need both sides to align for you to take a swing trade.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. So what's the strategy you're going to show our viewers today?
So this strategy is called an earnings strategy, and essentially you just need 3 things for it. Essentially, you just need a thesis. Then you also need to know what the company's estimates are for that. And then all you're going to do is just make a conclusion as to whether this is a positive or negative impact for the company.
Okay, so for this earnings swing strategy, what are some of the criteria you look for when you're looking for and selecting stocks to trade for this kind of strategy?
So typically when I'm looking to pick a particular company, the difference a little bit is that in day trading, you tend to go for the stock first.
Yeah.
In swing trading, you actually tend to go for the news first.
Oh, very interesting. Okay.
So with the news, there's so many free sources. You have Yahoo News, you have MSN, you have Bloomberg, you have Finviz, which is also another free resources. And you can also go there and just look for like what's happening around the world and just pick particular news topics that actually have something to do with the company.
Okay, so you said you use a lot of free news resources. Is there a website that you prefer to use?
Absolutely, MSN.com all day.
Okay, so now that you're on MSN.com, how do you look for a particular trade you want to trade?
So when you're on MSN.com and it can feel overwhelming at first, all you're looking for is just scrolling through the article and see if there's any news article that's actually out there that actually impact a company. So for example, we have one here that says what the CDC says about the updated COVID vaccine. So right away, you can start to think about your vaccine companies like your Moderna, your Pfizer, and your Novavax as well, and see how that's actually going to impact the company over the next couple of months.
So you essentially read news on all these free news websites and then think about, okay, that can affect the specific sector or industry, whether it's bullish or bearish, and you think about the companies that's involved in that sector.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. So you kind of have like a what's it called, top-down approach?
Top-down approach.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So Owen, I know you also mentioned that you need to know the earnings estimates. What kind of tools online do you use to find out those resources?
So Shay, one of the benefit of swing trading is that most of the stuff that are used for swing trading are pretty much free.
That's amazing.
So there's Zacks.com. Most of the experienced traders are familiar with that. There's Nasdaq.com and there's also MarketWatch.com. The one that we'll be using today will be Zacks. So on Zacks.com, all we'll be looking for is actually when you go to the top, you would type in the stock that you're looking for. You go to their earnings calendar, and then you look for their actual next estimated earnings. In this case for UPS, The next one is actually August 8th, 2023, which already has passed. And the estimate for that one was actually $2.51. And they reported $2.54. So as I mentioned, one of the free ones that I like is MSN.com.
Yeah.
But there's also NBC.com.
Okay.
On this one particular one, we had one about UPS workers approve new contract with hard-fought pay and safety gains ending their strike threat.
Yeah.
So earlier this year, UPS actually had a strike that was pending. And it turns out that this would actually be a negative for the company.
Okay.
At the time, they had huge estimated earnings. And this actual increase in pay would cut into their actual profit because they're raising their expenses.
Right, yeah,
and
makes
therefore,
sense.
the estimate for the forward future that the Wall Street have predicted would actually get cut down a little bit lower.
Okay.
Which means it's a negative impact.
So that's how you found your thesis for a bearish scenario.
Exactly.
Okay, I see. Okay, so now that Owen has determined the stock that he's looking for a bearish thesis, now he's gonna look for potential analysis, entries, etc. on the chart. You can take it from here. So we're on the weekly chart for UPS. Is there a reason you prefer to use the weekly chart?
So I personally look at charts a little bit differently. I think if you're doing a day-to-day scenario, then you use your daily chart. If
Okay.
you're doing a month-to-month scenario, then
Yeah.
you use your monthly chart. If you're doing a week-to-week scenario, use your weekly chart. Being that during this time, the market was a little bit volatile, so we were actually looking more on a week-to-week scenario. So we picked the
Okay.
weekly chart.
Okay.
All right, so on the weekly chart, what I'm particularly looking for is essentially being that it's a bearish sentiment. What I want to look for is more of a short technical setup,
Okay.
right? And the thing about technical analysis for swing trading is that it's a lot more simpler than your other strategies because you're only using support and resistances. So on this, what we're looking for essentially is a resistance point. So during September, on Monday, September 12th, 2022, UPS actually found a resistance point right around the 100 area, then eventually sold all the way off down to the 157 area. Then eventually kind of held resistance around the 192.50 for a while, eventually peaking out to the 197.55. Then eventually it sold off all the way to about 169.37, and then a little bit further down to 166.55. So what I'll be looking for most likely, is a rebound into that actual resistance point to execute a short setup based on my bearish fundamental analysis. So eventually, later on, that we've executed this trade on the trader community, you remember that? We actually rebounded into that actual zone, which a lot of traders actually took that trade. And eventually it sold off down to the 169.22 and 166.40, which would become your take profit area. So your entry points around this area, and you're trying to cover down in this particular area. But it went much further than we anticipated later on to 154.48.
Yeah, like I can see here, it also broke down this 200 SMA, and once you crack that on this weekly chart, so and once that cracked, this all went all the way down to 150s. Which area did you end up taking profit up here?
So we actually ended up taking profit like little chickens. So we took profit actually around 172.90.
Okay, but where was your entry?
Our entries was actually in the 192.70s and even some more in the 188.30s.
Nice. And how long was the kind of duration of you holding that swing position short?
So this was actually just for 3 weeks.
Oh, just for 3 weeks. That's like an eternity for a lot of day traders like
Yeah.
me. I'm like 3 weeks. Wow, that's a long time. So I think you mentioned your entry short area at resistance, essentially, and then you buy at support. So you have your entry and your price target. How would you manage your risk in this particular example?
So with risk management for swing trading, it can get simple and it can also get very complicated, but I'll make it simple for you.
Okay, good. Please make it simple.
So unlike day trading where you're looking for single position wins on each trade you take, when swing trading is a little bit different.
Okay.
So you're not just taking one position and getting tied to it. You're taking 5 or 10 of them.
Oh, I see.
So your goal is actually to be right on at least half of those positions.
Okay.
If you're really good and you can get there. And then the negative or positive outcome of the entire sum will actually determine what your profit actually is.
Oh, I see.
So if you take 10 positions
Yeah.
and you add them up and you're up $1,000,
Yeah.
then you're up $1,000.
Okay, so earlier you talked about the entry, which is at key resistance around 192-ish, 192 and 193, and your profit target is around 166, that area. So now we have the entry short and your profit target. What about your risk management? Like what's your risk like and your risk reward in this particular trade?
So in this particular trade, the risk management is actually 1 to 3 because you'll be placing a stop loss about 200 just so it's safely above the area of resistance, just to prevent yourself from being stopped out a little bit. Then on the downside, you have about 25 points drop. So if you do the math, you get a 1 to 3 risk to reward, which is pretty good for one trade.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so essentially, if we're talking about shares, points per share, the risk is about $3 per share, and the downside is about 25 points. So that's actually really, really good risk reward for this kind of swing trading strategy. Obviously, what's the minimum you're looking for?
So particularly the minimum for me when I look at trades, I'm always looking for anywhere from 5x to at least 10x.
And I think since it is a swing trade, you have like a longer time horizon to let it work. Stocks tend to trend, right? So once it does go in your direction, you get like a huge flush out like this one.
Flush.
So Owen, you know that I'm mostly a day trader.
I am familiar.
Yeah. I swing trade once a while, but not a whole lot. So how would you compare swing trading versus day trading? Like what's the advantages over day trading?
I would say the advantage over swing trading in general speaking will probably be the cost of the barrier to entry and the cost of entry.
Oh, okay.
Day trading tends to be a very, very versatile strategy, but it also can come at a huge expense, like in terms of technology.
Oh, I see.
So most of these sources that are used for swing trading are pretty much technically free. Like we use a lot of free resources here, right? The other advantage as well is that not many people have the ability to be in front of your screens each day at a certain waking hour of every day.
Yeah.
Right? They have jobs, they have kids, they have wives and husbands. They don't have that time and luxury. So swing trading allows you the ability to basically, you can work on your own time. Because you can do your research whenever you see the time available to you. Then you can then determine what is the right time to enter that trade. And that could be in the morning, it could be afternoon, it could be a couple days later or a couple weeks later. I would also say the barrier in terms of capital is also a lot more lower. And the thing is that you don't need to spend a lot of time practicing. I would say executing is practicing when it comes to swing trading because you have a lot more duration.
Yeah, and there's also like in the US, there's a PDT rule, right? So that kind of blocks a lot of people from day trading every day.
Right.
And when you're swing trading, you don't have to worry about
You don't worry about PDT rule. And in fact, when you're day trading as well, you have to worry a lot about which brokers you choose.
Yeah.
If you're short selling
That's
mostly,
a really good point.
Like shares to short, where to get the long, the best fees. With swing trading, some banks even allow you to use their own brokerage accounts. You can even use that. So there's nothing creative.
Yeah.
Even Robinhood works.
Hey, thanks, man. You're welcome.
Yeah, you can use a commission-free brokers to swing trade as well.
It's very, very cheap. I'll also say one of the benefits of swing trading too is that unlike with day trading where you take a position on, you're trying to make a win particularly on that particular trade, you have the diversity of having multiple swing trades as well. So you're just looking for the sum of the actual outcome of all 10.
So what kind of broker do you personally use for swing trading?
I would say E-Trade is my all-time favorite. We've had them for years and we haven't changed them since.
So yeah, sorry about last night.
Yeah, I just don't understand why you didn't call.
Yeah, well, I was on E-Trade, diversifying my portfolio, taking control like a wolf.
Right.
What's that? That's volatility in the market. Taken care of. Wolf style. Oh, oh, oh.
And that milkaholic Lindsay wasn't over?
Lindsay?
Milka, what?
Build a diversified portfolio at E-Trade.
So here's some gems that didn't quite make it past the censor. I found this DVD. Turns out my parents are dabbling in wrestling.
Oh.
Dear E-Trade customer support lady, lovely talking to you. Let me get your math, girl. I'm saving your portfolio, and you're acting like I'm not even here.
That's why I slept with Mrs. Johnson.
Oh, okay. So you use E-Trade and then the rest is just the free websites that you talked about today.
Pretty much. And in terms of hardware as well, particularly with day trading, you need a lot of screens we all seen Shay's a lot of screens.
It's not cheap.
Particularly for me, I have a Surface Pro and a smartphone, and that's pretty much all you need.
Just this on the phone, that's what you
Just
need.
that.
Any tips for our viewers watching this who want to step into swing trading?
I'd say that swing trading is also not bag holding,
Yeah.
and it's also not long-term investing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's a trade.
It is a trade just like any
Yeah.
other trade, right? If you'd actually do like a day trade, but it does take a longer duration for that.
Yeah.
And it's not bag holding. You have to respect your stops and follow your risk management plan just the same.
Yeah, just because your risk is now wider doesn't mean you keep back holding it all the way down to zero.
Exactly.
Yeah.